Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, April 21st, 2022. I'm Crystal Dawn Hill. And before I begin the video, I just want to say there is some noise going on outside, some activity. So if you hear that, please just dismiss it. So I'm here today to talk about a major shift that my Divine Masculine and I have undergone. And we met 3.5 years ago, and when we first met, there's a lot to the beginnings of it that I'll share in one video just dedicated to the beginning of our journey together. Not together physically, but as a unit energetically. But there's a lot to that. But what I want to say in this video is that I was shown a lot about time frames. I wasn't shown the specifics about each point on our timeline, but I was shown generalities as far as when things would upgrade and shift and transform. So the main timeline that I was shown was 3.5 years. And so I always knew that something would culminate by this point in time. And it has. It isn't anything to do with something looking like we're coming into physical union, but it gives me just as much hope because of my intuition about everything. And I should say, instead of hope, I should say comfort, because physical union has never been something that I have aggressively wanted to attain, although it has always been something that I've always imagined, and meeting him has always been something that I thought would be a good thing to happen to give us both more definitive answers about the potential of our connection. But it hasn't been like the end goal. The end goal for me, and I believe for him too, is ascension and to get to the core of who we are. And I think that's what makes us divine partners or ascension partners, is that we have the same ultimate goal. So with all that being said, when we first met, I saw something would change in 3.5 years. And I even remember chuckling to a friend of mine and saying, oh my God, 3.5 years, I'm already 50. Now I've got to wait this much longer. So anyway, the timeline has unfolded in such a way that would indicate that we are indeed ascending together as an energetic unit. So about a week ago, I noticed that, and I'm not giving any of our backstory today, because like I said, that's all going to be in a dedicated video to just that. So if you're watching this beforehand, just use it as it applies to your journey now, or, you know, make of it whatever you will. And then when my whole story videos come out about my journey with him, then what I'm talking about today will make more sense when trying to unpack the unfoldment of our journey. So about a week ago, I noticed that I was starting to feel frustrated. And I don't mean physiologically frustrated, like sexually or anything like that. I mean a sense of frustration in my heart about the whole thing. Confusion, unrest, no closure, no definitive answers about why things unfolded the way they did. And a lot of things in my 3D life were adding to the frustration. Um, Similar things that applied to my dynamic with him, but not to the same degree of intensity, of course, because nothing exceeds the degree of intensity between you and your divine partner or twin flame, at least in my experience. So I started paying attention to this because I've always been the type of person to pay close attention when there's changes in my mood or energy or perspective or anything like that. I always try to break it down and understand the root of what's causing it. So I talked to a couple of different friends about my frustration, and I've written about it in my journals. I've meditated about it, and nothing but nothing was giving me any sense of peace or settledness about the whole thing. So I meditated and I said, okay, then the only thing that this could be then is that I'm in an interim period between one timeline and another. And I haven't reached the new timeline. I'm still in the period of transition. And so that's this feeling of unrest and agitation that I'm feeling. So I meditated on that, and I don't feel like my guides told me, but I feel like I came to conclusion on my own through my own sense of experience and logic and reason that because I was already in the right timeline when he and I met, that either something is throwing me out of the right timeline, or what I'm feeling is him getting settled into the right timeline. So I accepted that it was one of those two possibilities, and I didn't try to figure out which one it was. I just allowed the process because I knew nothing I could do in my head would rush the process any faster. Excuse me. So I just allowed it to unfold naturally. So then a couple days ago, I was starting to feel a lot of excess energy building up inside of me. And it was starting to feel overwhelming for me, and what is too much for me to bear, which I feel like I always hold space for whatever I have going on, and rarely do I feel energy building up inside of me to the degree where I need to put it somewhere other than inside of me. Usually I can process everything on my own without needing to expel anything, you know. But this was different. I needed to do that, and I felt like it was time to deal with it appropriately rather than putting my own burden on a friend or someone in the twin flame journey, or excuse me, the twin flame community. I decided I was going straight to him with it, whether he liked it or not. So I wrote him a long email. Nothing chasing energy about it. No demands or no, not a commanding energy at all, just requesting that he talk with me about it in a civil and mature manner. And still no response. So that's when I noticed his energy, because I wanted to tap into his energy to see how he was responding to my email energetically, because I know he got it. And how I know is through external means of which I can't disclose at this point in time. I would to him directly if he were to open up and talk with me, but I'm not going to disclose it openly. So after I was able to tap into his energy a little bit, just enough to get a feel for what's going on his end, that's when I realized that this feeling of agitation and frustration inside of me is polarizing a shift within him. And even though it was a little disconcerting to figure out what had happened, it was also exciting because it was the major shift that I had been shown in the beginning when we first met. What that polarity is that it's not runner chaser. At times it's kind of gone along in in stride with the runner chaser mode. For anyone looking at our dynamic from the outside in, but internally for him and me, this really isn't anything at all to do with the runner chaser. It's a whole different polarity of energy in and of itself. And what I'm calling that polarity is aggression / placid. So let me just unpack that a little bit for those of you that might not understand the context in which I'm using these words. It's just internal. It's not an attitude or behavior or anything like that. It could be reflected a little bit in our mood or in our mannerisms or stature or whatever. But as far as actual behavior, it really isn't anything to do with that, unless we don't have a good hold on ourselves and we kind of become aloof and just act, without any self-restraint. So what I'm calling this, the aggressive / placid, let me first unpack what I mean by placid. This is the energy that I've been carrying inside of me in my dynamic with him, and I try to exude this in all my other relationships as well, is calm, wanting to have peace, serenity, balance, harmony, not wanting any conflict, not being difficult, not being challenging, or anything like that. Like everything that you can imagine would be the exact opposite of aggressive. That has been my energy the whole time he and I've known each other. And this building up of energy has, I believe, again, I can't speak for him or say this for sure from the 3D sense, because I really honestly don't know. However, I do trust my intuition immensely when it comes to anything to do with him, because it's been so accurate in the past in so many different ways that I really honestly have no reason to doubt what it's telling me. And what I feel intuitively, and I'm saying this as much for my benefit as I am for everyone else that's listening, because I really haven't given myself the opportunity to go through this in my mind yet. I just felt very compelled to come on today and talk about it. The reason I wanted to come on and talk about it is because I have mentioned this polarity in a couple of different posts that I've made. And I want to also talk about it on video because I've never heard anyone talk about this before. And I want it on record. So that if it becomes a thing down the line, I don't need anyone else to give me credit, but I want to know that I'm the one who first experienced it in the community of twin flames and divine partners that I'm a part of at this time. So, I really believe that the reason that I'm feeling this influx of all of this excess energy is because he's been doing a lot of inner work that's causing a reduction in that energy within him. And that is why I said in the beginning that I feel very hopeful about what I'm intuiting, because not that I expect it to lead to physical union, which that may, meeting him at some point down the road may end up being a byproduct of the work that he's doing on himself, that I cannot foresee. But it gives me hope because my desire is for him to reach a state of balance and clarity for himself. Because whether that ever leads to us having a 3D meeting or physical union or whatever, it won't matter at that point because I'll feel a sense of inner peace, which I'm not feeling now because of the imbalance in our energy field. So I'm looking down, I'm wadding a tissue around. I'm not reading off of anything. This is obviously all just coming out organically as I'm feeling it inside and as things are coming to mind. So I really honestly believe that because he is doing a lot of inner work, that's what's causing this imbalance. And so this polarity of these two energies is coming up for balance. And the first step in that process of balancing it is for the polarities to literally flip upside down. That happens in the runner-chaser. That happens in the masculine and feminine. That happens in every polarity between the divine partners. I've just never heard of anyone speaking about this particular one, and maybe they've experienced it and just call it runner-chaser. And let me explain why I believe that it's different than runner-chaser. That's because I've noticed that even during times when we reverse back and forth between runner and chaser, this aggression / placid energy never alternated. It always stayed static. The placid stayed static within me, and the aggressive stayed static within him. And so let me unpack that a little bit. What I mean by that is, even when he was in runner, there was still an aggressive energy around that running activity. So one very explicit example would be when he didn't want contact from me toward the beginning. He would say, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to communicate about this with you. I'm drawing boundaries. I'm this. So he was coming at me aggressively with his adamant intention to not be in contact and engage in the connection. And me, even though I was in chaser mode by wanting to talk and wanting to communicate and wanting and having the desire to be in harmonious union with him, I wasn't exhibiting that running behavior in an aggressive manner. In fact, it was the opposite. I was engaging in that chaser activity in a passive state. And let me explain what I mean by that. I was 100% in 5D with it. I was trusting God. I was allowing. I was in receptive mode. I was pulling away and allowing things to happen according to him. So when the runner-chaser dynamic would cease or come to like a temporary halt, he would be the one to reach back out. And the last long period of time that he had me blocked, which was last year for 5 months, it was the end of 2020. In February of 2021, he appeared on a talk show and said how he felt about me. And I remember feeling a sense of angst and fear and uncertainty, not fear of him, but fear of the not knowing what was going to happen after that. It was like an uncertainty, and that, of course, as we all know, in every aspect of life, that when we feel afraid, it's most commonly because we don't know what's going to happen next. So that's that was still in the Placid energy that I was in while he was being aggressive, even in his running phase. Now, the last thing that I would like to explain about all this from my own experience and perspective is that is exactly what I mean by he was in the aggression energy for 3.5 years. I kind of already explained that a little bit as far as his behavior goes and how he acted even during the running phase. But I want to explain how it felt to me as I was in the Placid stage, the Placid energy. There was a meekness about me. There was a passiveness about me. But not passive-aggressive, just simply passive, like, okay, whatever. You know, if that's how you want to be, that's fine. Anything that you want to do is fine. Oh, another thing that he was doing a lot was flaunting his free will, bragging about it, boasting about it, verbally applying it to the dynamic. And me being in the Placid state was, okay, we'll see. Because I know, excuse me, I know that God's got it all under control. And we can exercise our own free will and make our own choices and do what we want to do. But it's not going to change whatever the outcome is. It's already written in the contract that we share. Not our contract with each other, because divine partners don't each have a contract with each other, like a separate contract. We have one life contract that we came in, and we're both operating under that same contract because we're one soul. So a soul contract is going to be one contract for each soul that comes in. So when divine partners and twin flames are born and incarnated in two separate bodies, then yes, they do have individual portions of their contract that apply to only one of them or the other, but the overall contract is like an umbrella that they both operate under when it comes to their connection. So, excuse me, my voice is, as I've not had any problems with my voice like this in a long time until I start trying to talk on video, and I don't know if that is him not wanting me to share this stuff openly. I have, by the way, in the email that I wrote to him, offered him an opportunity to talk with me privately before I start sharing more details about my experience in this connection. And he's, again, like I said earlier, he's not responded. So I want to put this out there in case he hears this, or in case anyone who knows him hears it and wants to tell him what I said or send him the link or whatever, that I still am not going to divulge anything about him privately that I know. I'm not going to divulge his identity. I don't have to, because he already did that in public when he said that he loved me and called me by name. So I don't have to divulge his identity. He's already made that choice to do that for himself without consulting me. So, you know, I still have the utmost love and respect for him. I have no desire to affect him in any negative way whatsoever. The only thing that I desire is to continue my journey the way God desires for me to do, and to assist other people on this journey, because it is just so incredibly difficult at times to navigate. And when I have something significant come up, I always feel a sense of duty and obligation to share it, because when I feel intuitively inclined to share something, I know that it's my guides wanting me to share for the purpose of assisting others and giving others insight and guidance that they may need, that I've gotten very little of along my journey. So I think I'm going to go ahead and close for now, because I can't think of anything else to say about this at this time. If you have questions or would like to discuss this further, please always feel free to reach out. And I wish you all the very best along your journey. Have a wonderful day and take care.